what is one act of random kindness that we can do daily? Like an interesting, small, random act to try to make someone else day a little bit better, or to cheer them up, or maybe without seeking for any purpose.
So basically, I remember I went to a workshop on public speaking, and at the end of the workshop, everyone was kind of chatting with each other, and at the end of a session, you always have time to mingle and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing groups of people, small clusters, and I saw her in the corner, this older lady. And she was kind of just looking around. I think she might have just been feeling a bit lonely because no one was really speaking with her. So I decided to just approach her and just ask her about her name, what prompted her to come for the workshop, what she learned, just kind of small talk. And that small talk ended up in, kind of becoming quite a nice and wholesome conversation. After that, I went back and joined the other clusters of people. And I remember that when she was leaving the room, heading back home, she tapped on my shoulder. And I turned around and she said, "Thank you." I said, "What are you thanking me for?" And she said, "Thank you for speaking with me, because no one ever does that." So that just shows how the power of also just showing up for people. It doesn't mean fixing their problems. It doesn't mean finding solutions to whatever issues they have, but just showing up and just letting them feel like they're heard. I did not realize that me just going up and starting a conversation with her would make such a tremendous difference.
Yeah.
And I think this is why you also have this series on kindness, right? For the person who's maybe giving a kind word of gratitude, appreciation, whatever it may be, it doesn't take much. But for the person receiving this, it can mean the world. It can make their day, it can make their week, it can make their year.
Working especially with older people and international students or immigrants, which I believe is your main target of your workshops and of the work you're doing on communities. What have surprised you the most about what makes these people feel connected to each other or to their community? Like something you expected or you don't expect it to be, this is what they believe they connect.
I think something that's interesting is the sense of shared experience, which is not really voiced out. And when people maybe voice out in these workshops, they're more collaborative sessions on how we can better engage with the people around us, our community, friends, family, relationships. And when people maybe voice out something, and you've had maybe the rest of the room echo the same sentiment, saying, "Oh yeah, that worked for me. Oh yeah, I also experienced that." There is a shared sense of rapport and trust. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that after this happens in the workshops, the conversations also become a little more stimulating and engaging. Because people are opening up a little more, they're a little more vulnerable. And because of that, you're able to touch a deeper depth of what it is like to be a human connecting with others. So in the last workshop, someone was sharing something that worked for them. And a couple people said, "Oh no, that also worked for me, but I wasn't sure whether I'd share it or not because I didn't think it would make sense." And then after that, someone was a little more vulnerable and they said, "Oh, you know what, I tried to connect this way, but it didn't work, and I wasn't sure, was it me or someone else?" And then someone said, "Oh no, that the same thing happened. I don't think it's you. I think it might have been the context." So because of this, we're getting to the root. And when you get to the root, you're able to establish more conducive ways to connect and actually combat feelings of social isolation. So when people have shared experiences and are being a little bit more open, I think the depth of conversation can be more stimulating, invigorating, and also encouraging.
Is it, I haven't been to one, I will, but is it like, even like where there are people like telling their stories, why are they there, or just you talking about and they sharing things?
It's very fun. It's when I start the workshops, I just say, this is not about me. This is not about me being an expert or anything. This is just about us for an hour having a fun conversation about how we can meaningfully create fun connections with one another. Not just in this session, but also when we're in our own space, how we can meaningfully build connections and how we can maintain those connections and how we can deepen them. So it's just a really fun conversation. That's it. And I had a couple interactive activities. Everyone gets a worksheet, and the way the worksheet is, it's like maybe 10 words on the worksheet and little blank spaces. So you can write if you want, you don't write if you don't want. If you just want it like a blueprint, it doesn't matter. But the whole point is we're all engaging, chatting. And in these sessions, I'm maybe speaking, in the 1 hour session, I'm speaking maybe 15% of the time. 15%. 85% of the conversation is guided by them. And I just kind of point it in a different direction, but it's basically just a fun conversation about. And the thing is, when people are throwing ideas around, it's a safe space. It's a safe space to discuss social connection and how we can better it. Very simple concept, but I feel like these sessions are needed because we need to empower people with the skills, tools, and resources to better connect. And while it does seem very simple on the surface level, I think the simple things are often overlooked, which is why I think these sessions are so relevant and so beneficial. People have described these as uplifting and beneficial and practical. So I hope to keep doing it such that those that attend these sessions can maybe pass on some of the knowledge that they learn to others, and there will be some form of a butterfly effect.
How can you not make sure, but how can you get rid of the matter that they will be taking this as their new safe space and they will be dependent on it? For example, if you make a workshop in a community and then they ask you to make another one in that same community, because now they are dependent of, okay, now this is the people that I feel attached to and connected to, and if I have no one else, I want to go just there or the same people.
Well, I would say that even though it's quite early on in doing these workshops, I'd say that's unlikely to happen because a lot of them are at neighborhood houses, community centers, or places where people already congregate for social connection. So a lot of those people are those that they see anyway. I'm just helping to facilitate an engaging and fun discussion on how we can increase social connection and deepen social connection. But the chance that they will be dependent on one workshop is unlikely. They might find it fun, yes. So they might say, okay, that was fun, do it again, because there were fun discussions we got to have. But I don't think that they would be dependent on having a workshop because a lot of the people they'd see, they'd anyway see. I'm just facilitating a discussion with the people that they would regularly see.
And what you try to teach them, or what skills do you try to pass them during the work?
So if I compartmentalize it really, really simply, the workshop, the way it's delivered, you'd actually laugh at how simple it is. Because I think it should be simple, and it is simple. It's in some small, simple equations. I think this is how we approach social connectedness. For example, I talk about a social connectedness equation, right? And I just say it's being visible plus inclusive. So we talk about what visibility looks like. Visibility might look like, actually, if you're feeling a little socially disconnected, you can go out, you can go to the train, you can join a club, you can do whatever so people can see you. And when people see you, they might engage with you. The other part is inclusivity. When you're including others, that's playing a big role in someone who's trying to be visible. Maybe someone is differently abled. You're including them. And when you're inclusive, there's also a reciprocal kind of thing that happens there. So it is almost like a ripple effect. Everyone has a way of approaching it, but ultimately, if you're inclusive, you're going to create a more conducive environment to where everyone is valued, appreciated, seen, heard. So I feel like if you approach it through very, very simple kind of silos, it's easy to kind of compartmentalize what aspects of social connection maybe are a little bit deficient at this time and what can be worked on, things of this nature. And one more thing is, we also talk about small talk. We were talking about how small talk can be a bit clunky, awkward, but in these workshops we kind of discuss how small talk is very relevant for actually breaking that barrier into a friendship. A lot of the time people see small talk, the difference between small talk and a friendship, as a thick brick wall, but actually it's like a paper thing. You just flick it and there is the potential for a wonderful friendship that can thrive. But the more you do small talk, the more likely you are to actually get closer to that friendship. So it's training your emotional intelligence, your soft skills, your interpersonal skills as well.
Have you get to meet people there that were encouraged or pushed or forced to be there just by someone else, or everyone went to attend it on their own will?
Everyone came on their own volition, and I think part of it was the reason that the way it was kind of the word was spread around for these community workshops was meet and engage with people, or something like learn new and fun ways to better engage in your neighborhood. Let's develop a social toolkit together that we can apply. So these are all fun and inviting. But if you say, if you don't have friends, come here, no one's going to come. Because no one wants to be labeled like that. I wouldn't want to be labeled like that. So you also need to use language that's inclusive, inviting, and makes people want to come. So that teaches you a lot about the human condition and human psychology as well.
I don't know. If I'm a manager of an elderly house, or I live in a small community that I want to have this workshop, how can they approach you to do the workshops on their communities or their centers?
We have a page, a LinkedIn page, where I'm actually doing 1,000 ways to make friends from 1,000 strangers. So this will destigmatize loneliness and also inspire others who maybe don't have as many friends as they would hope to maybe try a new way of making a friend. And on the Facebook page end, I do advertise some of the community workshops on, community bulletins and maybe neighborhood houses and maybe on newsletters. But I do also put it on Facebook. So obviously the RSVP numbers on Facebook would not represent actual numbers because people are coming from different avenues. But if you also join the Facebook group, which will soon be private, you'll be able to see all the events there. And you can quite easily get in contact with me on LinkedIn if you have maybe an old age residential home, or if you are a manager in a refugee community or whatever it may be, and I'm more than willing to do a free workshop there to help the people come up with tools to better engage with one another and in their communities.
And so far you will be doing it just in Melbourne, Victoria?
Right now we're just doing it in Melbourne, but right now I don't even know where this project is taking me. Mm-hmm. I'm doing this project because I'm passionate about it. I'm very passionate about social connection. We are at a time where we're at an all-time high for social disconnection, and I feel that there's a way you can address it. And I think it can be best addressed at a grassroots level, not at a governmental, legislative, act, social policy level. It's too high up. At the community is where camaraderie, kinship, friendship, relationships, belonging, it starts and ends. So when you do it at the community, that's when you're empowering people. Too high up, I think people slip through the gaps.
If you look back at those communities where you have done workshops and you have had an impact, what kind of new or better community you expect to have built?
I would hope that these communities have probably by that time had a bit of a ripple effect, and they're able to empower other people with ways of being more socially connected. I would also hope that people can look at social connection as maybe a compartmentalized concept where it's quite easy to address when you break it down to its first principles level. I would hope that people are able to reach out to others with the intention of being visible and inclusive as a way of actually encouraging and building upon social connection. I think that if we look at social connection from a very simple point of view, we can address it in a simple way. And one more thing is, I would hope that a year from now, if I'm going back to these places where I've done these workshops, they're actually applying some of the skills and tools and knowledge to continue deepening or building connections. And the thing about these workshops I want to emphasize is I'm not a guru or a PhD holder. I'm not even teaching them. I'm just facilitating a discussion where they themselves are coming up with tools and skills that are conducive to their own environment. I'm just helping guide that discussion, but I'm in no way teaching them. I'm just trying to help them to be empowered to teach themselves. I'm not doing anything special. And hopefully after a year's time, I would have had a little bit more knowledge. I'll see what works, what doesn't, how I can maybe streamline things. Maybe what I deliver and the way in which we kind of develop a social toolkit or whatever, maybe it changes. Maybe it takes a 180. Maybe I discard some things and keep some things. Maybe I just discard the worksheet altogether. We don't know. But the more I'm doing it, the more I'm understanding. Kind of like small talk. The more you do it, the more you understand what works and what doesn't. So we'll see where it goes. And the hope is that after some time, maybe, fingers crossed, to scale this project and maybe get it out to more people. Because the more people we get it out to, the more people are empowered to better socially connect. And hopefully, if that happens, I'll actually be able to maybe apply for some council grant or some local grant. And there are quite a few available right now, but I need to have proof of concept. So once I've had some more workshops under my belt, maybe I'll apply for some local council funding to scale the project a bit.
What is one act of random kindness that we can do daily?
This sounds a little bit, maybe I'm thinking a little laterally, but I think if we kind of stay away from doing the bad stuff, we're doing something that's kind. If you're not stealing, if you're not lying, if you're not harming others, you're contributing to a positive society. Imagine if everyone just was not doing this. You're contributing to a kinder society, a more conscious society, where we actually care about one another. So I think it's actually much easier to stay away from doing the bad stuff than consciously do the good stuff. So if we can try to just be cognizant of what isn't right, by default and if you are looking for some inspiration on being a little more socially connected with your community, you can see the Social Threads LinkedIn page where we're doing the 1,000 tips to make 1,000 friends. So you can see that and it might spark some inspiration within you. And on the Facebook page, we have the events that are coming out. Once again, the events, the RSVP numbers, because they're coming from different streams, might not be reflected accurately on the Facebook page, but at least you'll be able to see in the events column all the upcoming free workshops that you can be a part of, where you'll get to make new friends, engage with people, meet people, and find fun and engaging ways to better connect with the neighborhood and community. Yeah.